My name's Francesca Gordon-Smith and I specialise in British accent coaching. Today I'm going to show you how it's possible to develop a British accent in just 12 weeks so that you can stand up and present in front of a British audience without having to repeat yourself. Interestingly enough, there are people who believe it's impossible to develop a different accent to your own once you hit a certain age. They say that you have to be young, a child, and essentially bilingual. So here's why I don't believe this. I've actually developed a series of exercises which overcome this obstacle. The main reason why it's difficult to develop a different accent to your own is because you get so used to resonating your voice in the same cavity. So these exercises allow you to resonate sounds in the throat, in the back of the mouth, and around the soft palate area. They also enable you to work those muscles, to work the soft palate, to work the muscles in the lower jaw, which in turn enables the sound to just resonate differently. So you see, it is difficult to intellectualize, but when you do these kind of exercises, you don't have to think about it. You'll just naturally have this new capacity to speak in a different way. So you might be wondering, now, is this for me? Is this the right kind of program for me? If you work in English, then yes, it's the right one for you. If you have conversations in English with British people, yes, it's right for you. If you're someone who finds it difficult to structure a sentence in English, then you're just not ready yet. You need to fully immerse yourself in the language, travel to England if you don't live there, and just generally work on grammar and communication first. And the next step is to work the muscles and to work on your accent. When someone comes to me, typically they say, I just need to change my accent because I cannot cope being asked to repeat myself anymore. Or I just want people to stop asking me, where are you from? I want people to listen to what I'm saying rather than how I'm saying it. Around about 6 years ago, I had a client. She came to me and she said, I work for a property company owned by Prince Philip. I am surrounded by people who speak perfect, beautiful English, and I want to sound just like that, and I want to do it in 3 months. So she came every week, she did her homework, she did the exercises, and after 3 months, she had the most beautiful speech. There were perhaps a couple of tiny things she needed to continue working on, but she sounded English. And this got me thinking, actually, it's not about the methods, it's about the structure. So when you follow a program, there's something very powerful about having a clear objective. So her clear objective was to sound just like the people at work, and a time frame. Because otherwise you're just going to kind of go along in a relaxed way. We need to have a deadline. What you can see here is my British accent blueprints. And if you start down in the very light blue row, and you'll see the very first box is marked assessment. And we're just going to follow this journey from A to B. So you'll see the white arrows. The first thing that I do when I meet someone is to assess them. It's very important to know exactly which areas of your speech need working on. And obviously, it's very difficult for you to do this yourself because you're not qualified. Often people call and they say to me, I want to improve my speech because I'm not communicating well at the moment. I'd like to develop a British accent. One of the things that I usually ask when someone calls saying they want to develop a British accent is there anything that's particularly bothering or concerning you about your speech? And most people find it hard to pinpoint. And I think this really just underlies this issue of having an assessment and how very important it is. So during the assessment, we go through the 45 sounds in the International Phonetic Index. I listen to how your voice resonates. By this I mean whether the sound is in your throat, in the cavities in the head, in the nose, at the front of the mouth. And a British accent resonates very much at the back of the mouth and in the throat, which is very different from other languages. In the assessment, we look at resonance, how you use the muscles in your mouth, the 45 sounds, and also the general quality of your voice. And some people just find their voices a bit squeaky or a bit too husky. There are things that you can do to improve the quality, exercises that you can do. So this all goes into your plan. And the next step is for me to put your plan together and to send it to you. And it works as a checklist. So throughout the course, we're checking off what we've covered and what you've completed. The next step is optional. And for some people, mindset plays a big part. For some people, they have a real lack of confidence when speaking English, but also when speaking their own language. And it's difficult to communicate clearly if you don't feel confident. So you need to have a certain amount of confidence in order to activate those muscles in the mouth that make your voice strong. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself mumbling. So for those of you who need that, that's there, either one-to-one training, or I also have hypnotherapy audios, which are very useful. And there's even a hypnotherapy audio in my digital training course in the members area. So if you decide to follow a video course, it's there. The next step, we're going up onto the yellow row. And what you'll see here on the far right is the ultimate vocal workout. And this workout is really what sets me apart from other trainers who train British accent coaching, because it really helps you to resonate your voice in a way which sounds English. It helps you to master the sounds more quickly. For a lot of people, they're not used to using the muscles in the mouth in the same way, and therefore the sound is never going to resonate correctly. It's always going to resonate in the wrong place because you haven't worked those muscles. You're not able to get the sound to travel and resonate exactly where it needs to. A big area that needs work for most people is the soft palate and also the throat. There's lots of exercises you can do, like chanting and humming, that will help you to get your voice to resonate in these areas, in these cavities. The next step, we're working on the middle box now, the middle yellow box, is the sounds of British English. Now, this refers to the 45 sounds in the International Phonetic Index, and each language has a different set of sounds. And there are some overlaps between some languages, but the chances are there will be sounds that you have never pronounced before. Your voice will just not be used to pronouncing those, your muscles, your lips, your tongue. So it's very important to learn the positioning of the lips, the lower jaw, the tongue, and also how the muscles need to feel as well when you pronounce certain sounds. And the next step on the understanding section is vocal melody, and this refers to the tune of the language. Each language has a song-like quality, a tune-like quality. And actually the main factors that contribute towards the melody of British English are the way in which we emphasize certain syllables within words and the way in which we emphasize some words and weaken others. Those words and sounds that are weakened will not sound anything like the way they are spelt. And for instance, when you have a sentence, we often weaken little words like and can become un, and can become und. So I could say English and French. I don't say English and French. There's not equal emphasis there. English and French. And this is just a small example, but the melody is also contributed to by the way in which we link words and sounds as well. So lots of elements there. Too much for me to talk about in this video, but just to give you an overview. If we then go up to the green section, we're looking at mastering vocal control here. And this first one on the left is marked the mid-session review. In reality, it's not the middle of the course when it takes place, actually a little bit earlier. And essentially it refers to this process of going through each and every sound and spending some really focused time looking at the sound, looking at the way in which you pronounce it, and we go over the positioning for that, and we work using warm-up exercises, and I give lots of examples, and we go through as many words as possible until you find one that you can pronounce clearly. And then it's a matter of my updating the plan just to tell you exactly what you did, how we found the solution, so that you can then come back to that and practice and perfect it. And we go through every sound in this way so that by the end of the course, you've pronounced every sound correctly at some point. So you know how to do it and your voice is capable of doing that. And then it's just a matter of you practicing until you can do it all the time. The next step is self-correction. Now this comes once you've gone through all the sounds, and it's a matter of you being very aware of your speech and correcting yourself when you mispronounce words or sounds. And you just need to be very, very on the ball in terms of this and correct yourself continuously all the time. It's not enough to correct yourself in your head. You need to actually repeat the word correctly. And this is how you're going to reprogram your brain. If you just think, oh yes, I made a mistake, it wasn't great, better luck next time, you're never going to improve. So you really need to correct yourself and correct that out loud in the middle of your conversation. And you can do it subtly. I'll give you lots of tips on that. The next point is self-study. And it's something that you need to do, clearly, in order to practice on your own, record your voice, and get used to doing this on your own, because there's going to come a time when I'm no longer about, so you can't have me there 24 hours a day. So really important to practice on your own. It's actually a definite phase, a definite step when you have the one-to-one course, because we have 12 weeks together, and then you have a self-study period of a further 12 weeks where you practice the audio recordings we've made together, and you also use my videos. So it's a very definite step in the one-to-one program. But obviously in the digital monthly membership program, it's throughout the course. There's this period of self-study. We'll get to this. So essentially, you can do my monthly membership, which includes a library of videos that I'm constantly expanding upon, 2 live coaching calls per month, and a Facebook group. And some people might not be that into social media, but Facebook's a really good way of creating a community to keep you motivated. And the fact of seeing those updates of other people, of what they've achieved, the ability to share videos, for me to share my videos, and also for everyone to share tips and perhaps audio books they like, things like that. It's a really great place to share ideas. And I think this is key to succeeding. If you really want to succeed, you need to put yourself into the right environment. And this Facebook group creates an environment full of motivation for you to really keep yourself accountable. And it's really important to be accountable to someone. So if you say you're going to do something and you haven't told anyone, you just told yourself, you could say, oh, well, never mind. But if you're accountable to others, there are going to be people there saying, so did you do that? Which is really helpful. And that's the main difference usually between reading a book, watching a video, and having a personal trainer. It's that accountability. So I keep mentioning that there are so many ways of doing this. And if you look at my comments here, I've got lots of comments on YouTube. If we start on the top left-hand corner, this is a comment from someone I've never met. And they've just been following my YouTube videos. It's Nishant Kotari, and he says, You are seriously one amazing human being. Just doing this for 1 minute, I can feel a huge difference in my voice. It's a lot clearer and I can speak more confidently. Great job. So this is someone that just quite literally followed a video on YouTube and used my exercises and found that it helped them. Next, we've got Kane Jacobs. I have been incredibly self-conscious about my speaking voice for over 25 years, but after doing these exercises for only 3 days, I'm feeling a huge improvement. The video I watched before this one on the same subject was a woman who suggested I should hug or love myself and accept that I have a lisp. So this guy here is talking about a problem with his speech, a lisp, which is to do with the tongue not being in the correct position. And my exercises really work to improve the quality of the voice. So whatever your voice is like normally in your everyday language, native language, it's going to feel some improvements when you speak in English. Next, we've got Drew Fan 30s, a highly interesting video and very helpful too. I really enjoy watching your videos. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name or his name. Peter Wasilewski. This is very interesting. I love her. And if we go up to the Facebook page, we've actually got a comment from one of my one-to-one clients. And she says, Francesca is an excellent teacher.
She tailors her teaching to each student's way of learning and is so patient and lovely. I couldn't recommend her more if you want to improve your accent or your public speaking voice or all the other things this very talented lady does. And she has a lovely sense of humour. So you can see there are lots of comments there. I'm not sure how clear these are for you, so I thought I'd read a few. When you follow my training, the first main shift is going to be in your awareness of the mistakes that you're making. The next shift is going to be in this knowledge that you'll be gaining, because we don't know what we don't know. And all of a sudden you're going to be confronted with a whole lot of information, and you're going to see that there's a lot to be covered. And the final shift is your capacity to correct yourself. So we go from this awareness of all that needs to be done to this gaining of knowledge, and then this capacity to correct yourself, because you will become an expert on your own speech. Not necessarily an expert in the British accent, but an expert on your own speech, an expert on what needs changing and improving and how you can do that. As I said earlier, it's not just a case of the positioning of the mouth to produce each sound. It's a case of really shifting your general technique. And initially we will work a lot on individual steps, individual sounds. But eventually you'll get to a point where you'll see there's an overview, a general technique that you can follow, things that you can do in general so that you don't have to think about every tiny sound that leaves your mouth. And I think that's really important. So general technique is something, a big part of what I do, and will really help you to develop a British accent without having to think about every tiny sound that leaves your mouth. So this is the process that we follow. And even if you follow my monthly membership program, the series of videos for live coaching calls, and the Facebook group for the support, it's still going to follow this process. These topics will still be discussed. You'll still be following me. Of course, the pace is going to be different. So the decision that you've got to make is how quickly you want to do this. So as I keep saying, you're here watching this now, so you've already made some decision to some extent that you want to work on your speech. And now it's just a case of working out how you're going to do this. So the slower process, or the slowest, is to do it on your own and just follow videos on YouTube. But that lacks some kind of structure, so you probably won't have such good results, but you can make some progress there. That's a starting point. Next up, you could follow my monthly membership. And it does take a little bit longer because there's a bit less one-to-one. But you can actually combine the monthly membership with 1 or 2 lessons. This pyramid outlines the kind of people that I can help. So below the red section would be people who are learning English, who don't yet speak fluently. So when I say fluent, I mean you're able to have a conversation with someone, and even if you make the odd mistake, you're able to get your point across, okay? But there is a state of frustration and overwhelm because you're constantly asked to repeat yourself. So the knowledge is there, the grammar, the level of English is there, but you just need to work on your vocal clarity. There's no vocal clarity there. You're struggling to be understood, and it's really about persisting and working on this. So this is the first step. Next up, in the orange, we have people who are feeling uncomfortable. They don't feel they fit in. People easily guess where you're from. You can pronounce some sounds, but you're mostly understood, but you really want to polish, you want to fit in. And at this point, it's all about practice. So learning about the sounds, working on the resonance with the vocal workout. It's very important. Next up, we've got the green section. And these people are motivated. There's a slight accent there, and people will sometimes ask you where you're from. And there's a need to do some polishing. You can be understood right now, but you'd like to perfect your English. And this is a very good place to be. So the vocal workout will help, and there'll be certain sounds that need some work. Next up, we've got the final step, which is the goal for everyone. The goal is to get to this point, this light blue, purple kind of color. People are at ease when speaking when they get to this point. They're complimented on their speech. And people are surprised when they find out that you're not British. It's not easily evident initially. So you speak clearly, you've got a British accent, and it's time now to present in front of an audience because people can understand exactly what you're saying. I would recommend that you keep up the daily workout when you get to this point because it's really good for maintaining clarity, especially if you're someone who lives in the UK but goes away from time to time, because you really need to keep working on those muscles, especially if at any point you find yourself not speaking English so much, then it's even more important. There can be lots of reasons why we speak less clearly, and often it's related to health or to how energetic we feel, how busy we are, if we're in a hurry, under pressure sometimes. I think when we've spoken all day long, we can do with working those muscles, and just stifling a smile is a really good exercise. But essentially, once you get to this point, the very top of the pyramid, you don't need help anymore. There's no area that really needs extra explanation. You're there. So it's the goal. The next step is for me to give you a virtual tour around the membership area. So I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Welcome to the digital version of my accent reduction course. Now, I usually do this course one-to-one, mostly via Skype, but this version is for people that don't necessarily have the time to do one-to-one or just want to do it in their own time. Having said this, I strongly recommend setting a time frame. So the reason for this is because when we have a definite goal with a time frame and a clear objective, we're much more likely to obtain our goals. If I have a kind of vague idea that I want to improve someday, one day, probably not going to get so much done. The best example I can give to you of this is when I ran the London Marathon. So I hadn't run more than maybe 5-10 miles prior to training for the marathon. All of a sudden, I'm training hard. I'm increasing the amount I do each week. And finally, over a 6-month period, I found myself able to run 26 miles. And I think this is a really, really nice example of what setting a time frame and a clear objective will do for you. The short warm-up, more useful for everyday practice. Nice deep breath and ho-hum. Ho-hum. Stifle a smile. Lower your bottom jaw and hum. Nice deep stretch. Expanding the back of the mouth like a K. Stretching forwards. Tongue boot camp. 8. whir, stir, word, work. So this sound is particularly challenging when we have a W before it, because in terms of the movement and positions, the mouth needs to be very relaxed, and we're really only using the back of the mouth to create the sound, and the throat. Yet when you have a W preceding one of these words, like the word word and work, we actually have to tighten here for the W, so you're going to need to tighten and then release and relax quite quickly. Let's have a go. Whir, whir, word. So how do we do this? I think what's going to help you most of all is to focus on the expansion. So if you do a stretch and you deepen the back of the mouth like a cave, diphthong. Cure, pure, obscure, mature. Now this diphthong is formed from two sounds, it's two positions. U, as in do, clue, move, and as in the, water, wonder, So essentially we're moving the lips forwards, U, tongue widens, and the cheeks come in, ooh, ooh. And then everything relaxes back, and we come to the throat for the final part of the diphthong, ua, pure, pure. And this sound is very similar, when some people pronounce it, to the or vowel, tor, short, more. And you would be forgiven for confusing the two, because in England we have so many different dialects that some people actually pronounce these two the same. And in some instances I do. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share all this information with you. As a bonus, and by way of thanking you for watching this far, I'm going to offer you 50% off an assessment lesson when you sign up for the monthly membership package. It costs €49 per month and includes a library of 50 videos, which is a growing library, so it'll be probably greater than that by the time you watch this video. 2 live coaching calls per month, and access to the closed Facebook group. Just below this video you'll find a button. Literally click on the button, it will take you to the checkout. You sign up for the monthly membership, and you'll have the option then to add on the assessment, which is a one-off payment of €70. Okay, I'm so looking forward to meeting so many of you very soon on the live coaching calls, and obviously if you sign up for the assessment, we'll have a one-to-one session, which will be great too.